Hey everybody, welcome back. If you're new, my name is Chris. Today's part 2 in a series I started a couple months ago, affordable options for expensive perfumes. I have so much material for this type of video, so this will be the second video in the series, and I'll save the third video for some time closer to the warmer months. And since I have a lot of ground to cover, I'm just gonna dive right in. The first perfume on the list is a beautiful vanilla. In my opinion, it's a gateway vanilla, or vanilla for people who are afraid of the note of vanilla and do not want to smell like food. And I have the lovely Dama Bianca in my hand. This is a fluffy, powdery vanilla with some soft purple flowers and some bright citruses at the top. It's very unique in that this has a prominent note of kumquat. There are not a lot of perfumes that have a prominent note of kumquat, and you get that kind of that bright citrusy pop at the top. It's a very powdery perfume. There's also a note of malt in here. Gives it just a little bit of a savory bite. It's a very feminine perfume, and it is soft, but it has decent longevity. It's a pretty vanilla. It's not my favorite vanilla, but it's absolutely pretty, very dressed up and elegant, as long as you like powdery, slightly floral vanilla perfumes. And another creator here on YouTube last year told me that I needed to check out the perfume Junoon Noir. And I'll put a picture of the perfume up on the screen because I don't own it anymore, because the minute that perfume came to me and I did a test spray, I immediately realized that it was basically a dupe or impression, or smelled remarkably similar to my Xerjoff's Dama Bianca. So much so that I looked up the notes, and I think the notes are pretty close to a one-on-one similarity. So it became apparent that I did not need Junoon Noir having Dama Bianca. That being said, it is an excellent substitution for the very expensive Dama Bianca. I think I looked yesterday, and on Max Roma, I believe it was running for about $34. I remember at the time I already had the perfume. I did a side-by-side wear, and I want to say Junoon Noir actually lasted just a touch longer than Dama Bianca. Other than that, they are 90 to 95% similar. So if you are on a limited budget and you love and you have tried Dama Bianca, I think Junoon Noir is an excellent substitution or alternative. The next fragrance is something that is marketed towards men, and one of my very first fragrance loves when I smelled it on another human being, which happened to be my high school and college sweetheart. I talked about it in one other video over the summer, and that is Creed, the original Santal. I just absolutely adore this perfume, and I've smelled it once in the community and just about swooned. I smelled it on somebody actually in a stairwell at the hospital I work at, and I recognized it immediately and asked the gentleman, "Hey, are you wearing Creed Santal?" And he said yes. And we both got a big kick out of it. But this is a creamy, spicy sandalwood. In addition to sandalwood, it has cinnamon, ginger, lavender, and juniper berries to give it, it's a very invigorating fragrance, but is also very put together and mature. And the sandalwood is very dry and a little bit creamy, and there's just a touch of tonka to give it the slightest bit of sweetness without being a sweet fragrance. It's classic, it's refined, it's timeless. And I always think that if James Bond had a fragrance, it would be Santal. Other people have disagreed with me, but this is just that kind of class and refinement. And I accidentally found a fragrance that smells remarkably similar, or reminds me a lot of the Creed version, because as we all know, Creed is very expensive. If you have been watching me, you know I have shown many fragrances by the house of Cremo. This is a very affordable brand, Cremo. They make shaving products for men. This is a brand that they sell at Target. A couple people have told me they have picked them up at Walmart and Amazon. One of the very few fragrances I would recommend picking up on Amazon because it's very, very cheap and it's not going to be duplicated. Really affordable fragrances, you don't have to worry about them being duplicated because there's no market. There's no market to be made. There's no money to be made. So this one runs around $17 to $25. I think I picked this one up around $18. And I've got probably 5 or 6 in this line. There are very well-made fragrances that are very, very affordable. And the first time I bought this blindly because I've had so much luck with some of the other fragrances, and I immediately thought, this smells an awful lot like Creed Santal. They're not a one-to-one. I would put this in the 80 to 85% range, but Creed Santal runs $200-300. This is running significantly less, so I think this is a great affordable option for one of my favorite fragrances that is marketed to men that I would have no problem wearing. I think it's just that good. This is a spicy, woody, slightly boozy fragrance. There are spices in here. There's whiskey and oak. But even though the notes are very different, they do come off very similar. The one difference, well, the big differences are price, lasting power, and the dry down. So the dry down in this one, Bourbon and Oak, is just a little bit sweeter. I'm surprised that vanilla's not listed because I do get a very slight vanillic sweetness in the dry down. And it does have whiskey as part of the note profile, so just a little bit of booziness. Maybe that's what's giving it its sweetness in the dry down. They're both fantastic. I love both, but Bourbon and Oak by Cremo is a wonderful, affordable option for the very pricey Creed Original Santal. So one fragrance I smell more than anything else in my community is Coco Mademoiselle by Chanel. I think it's a beautiful perfume. I don't happen to own it because I have a fragrance that to me is kind of my preferred take on that fragrance DNA. Not only is it my preferred version of Coco Mademoiselle, but it's slightly more affordable. At least when I purchased it, I think I bought it around $40. I will check the price again, but it is Zen by Shiseido. This is my second bottle. I've had this perfume for several years. So Coco Mademoiselle is known for its patchouli. It is a patchouli dominant fragrance, but it also has, there's fruits in there, there's florals, there's musk, and a little bit of a woody base. The citruses in Zen really take center stage, particularly up front, and the citruses are a little bit different. I think there's orange in Coco Mademoiselle. There's grapefruit in here, so it's a little bit more tart, a little bit more tangy, has a little bit more of a bite. The patchouli is in here, there's a woody base, musk, and other than that, I think they are very similar. There's just something about this fragrance and the type of patchouli and notes that are in here. This is one of the very few patchouli dominant fragrances that I wear in the summertime. And I think it's because it has so much tartness and freshness and brightness from those really strong citruses that gives this an overall freshness. The patchouli, in my opinion, even though I'm a patchouli lover, is much stronger in Coco Mademoiselle, where the tart citruses are a little bit stronger here. They both are very long lasting, and in the past there has been a fairly big difference in price. So in my opinion, the more affordable alternative to a very popular fragrance, Coco Mademoiselle, I would say while I'm talking about it, I had a friend that gave me a decant of Sofia by Sofia Vergara, and this also reminds me a lot of Coco Mademoiselle, and I think a full bottle of this, like a 3-ounce full bottle, runs around $30-35. So another affordable alternative. This one is a fruity floral vanilla with wood, so it's not as tart, it's not as citrusy. It's a little bit sweeter. It's got blackberry and plum, I want to say, instead of the grapefruit, orange, and bergamot. And there is a little bit more sweetness. So this reminds me of Coco Mademoiselle and a little splash of La Vie Belle by Lancôme. So two very affordable alternatives for a popular designer fragrance, Coco Mademoiselle. One of my favorite woody vanillas is made by Van Cleef and Arpels, and it is Bois d'Iris. This is a woody iris with a non-foody soft vanilla. It is on the drier side. It is a dry fragrance, and it's definitely a woody vanilla with a soft iris. The iris is present and slightly powdery. Let's give it a little spritz here. Let's get my little blower going. Oh my gosh, it is so good. In my opinion, this is very universally appealing, very work friendly. It is a compliment getter. Because it is on the softer side, it's softer, it's more demure. It's really not a powerhouse, so it smells great, but the wear is mild to moderate. It's absolutely gorgeous, and this bottle I think ran me anywhere from $85 to $100. I'll put the current price below. And sometime last year I picked up a sample in my hand, a nice little travel size of Bois d'Argent by Christian Dior. Christian Dior is one of my favorite designer lines. There are so many fragrances in that line, that I adore. If you guys have been following me for some time, you know Gris Dior and Sakura and Lucky and Fève Delicious are just a few of those fragrances that I adore in that line. So when I first sprayed this, I realized very, very quickly that I did not need a full bottle because it smells remarkably similar to my beloved Bois d'Iris. The main difference to me is that Bois d'Argent has a prominent myrrh note, and I can really pick that up. Myrrh is one of those notes that my nose is very sensitive to, so there's no myrrh in Bois d'Iris. Bois d'Argent does have a prominent iris note, also has some other evergreens, I want to say cypress and juniper, but they are remarkably similar. So I knew pretty quickly I was not going to need the more pricier version, and I think the prices on the Christian Dior fragrances went up yet again. So for about a third of the price, or less than a third of the price, I have a beautiful fragrance that is a wonderful, more affordable option for Bois d'Argent, and I love this, and this is my second bottle as well. If you are a return subscriber, you will recognize the two bottles I hold in my hand. Delina and Delina exclusive. I have shown these so many times. I've made so many videos because I enjoy them. I think they're beautiful perfumes, but they are on the pricey side. I have had people comment in the comment section that they would really love to have a bottle of Delina, or they've smelled it in a department store, they've tried a sample, but it's just outside of their price range. And I actually have what I think is a very good alternative. It is not a one-to-one dupe, but it is a very similar take on that DNA, that rose lychee DNA, that rose lychee bergamot DNA that is very popular, and it is made by Zara, and this is called Fashionably London. I bought several of these last year. I bought them blindly because they're so incredibly affordable. I think even their largest bottle, that's 3.4 ounces, is around $29-30. So I bought several of them blindly, and when I gave this one a sniff, I knew immediately that if it wasn't an impression of Delina, it's sure pretty darn close. It's actually so close that I have given this to my daughter. My daughter has a little perfume collection of her own, and this thing is strong. We took this on vacation, and my daughter wore this when we were on vacation last year. She sprayed like 2-3 times. She's like me. We're both under sprayers, and I could smell this all day. So I think Fashionably London by Zara is a fantastic alternative for the pricier Delina and, to a lesser degree, Delina exclusive. So if you like these two, I think this one fits the bill and is much easier on the wallet. I have said in the past, and I will say again, that I just don't think a signature scent is in the cards for me. But I have had fragrances along the way where they have come very, very close to being my signature scent. One of those fragrances is Narciso Rodriguez, for her, the EDT, and to a lesser extent, the EDP. This DNA I find absolutely beautiful. I went through an entire bottle of the EDT, a big bottle, and the EDP. So I went through 2 bottles maybe 8 years ago. I just loved it. People loved when I wore it. It was a compliment getter. I remember smelling that for the first time in Sephora and absolutely falling in love. When I got through the 2 big bottles, I was just ready to move on, but not completely, so I replaced it with one of my tiny bottles. Even though this isn't an expensive niche perfume, it still is a designer perfume that might be out of the price range for some of my viewing audience. And I think a wonderful alternative, another fragrance that I've owned for years, is Lovely by Sarah Jessica Parker. In my opinion, one of the best celebrity fragrances ever made. One of my coworkers years ago, this was her signature scent, and I thought she smelled so pretty because around that same time I was wearing Narciso, so I thought it was very, very similar. It's not a dupe. I would put it maybe 70% the same, and I think this has been reformulated so it's a little bit even further from the Narciso Rodriguez DNA, but this one has martini, it has a note of lavender. The floral in here is, I think, orchid and something else, but it has a really strong musk. So if you have a problem with this fragrance, it's probably going to be the musk. Now, Narciso Rodriguez is known for his musks. The musk in this one is a little bit tamed down and it's slightly more animalic. Whereas I think this one in Lovely is even louder, and maybe some people might think it's a touch screechy, but a fantastic alternative for Narciso Rodriguez EDT if this one is out of your price range. I think they're both lovely. When I was in Italy over the summer, I had the great pleasure of going into the Parfumum Roma boutique that was there in Rome. There are actually 2 different boutiques. I popped in one of them and had a great time over a couple hours trying all their perfumes. The fragrance that I actually sprayed myself with and walked out the door was Aqua Eucaro, which basically means sugar water. And I have such vivid memories of wearing this fragrance and walking the streets of Rome. I can even think of the stores that I walked by when I wore this perfume. There's such a scent memory to it. And I picked up 3 bottles from this line, and this one is certainly one of my favorites. And it wasn't until I got home that I realized that there was a fragrance very similar to this perfume, which is, by the way, very, very expensive, in my daughter's room. So this is a very sweet perfume. It's like the fragrance name Sugar Water, but there's other things in here. This has a candied, fruity sweetness with the slightest hint, and I mean slightest hint, of licorice, because I'm not a big fan of licorice. Oh my gosh, it just smells so fun. This is a fun smelling sweet perfume. It's going to be too sweet for many people because it's sweet, but there's just something very fun and whimsical about it, and it brings me great memories. And it wasn't until I got home that I realized that there was another bottle in this house from another brand that was much more affordable that smelled remarkably similar, and I had to dig it out of my daughter's backpack just now. But it is Pink Sugar by Aquolina. This was literally in her backpack. And this is not a one-to-one at all, but they are definitely very similar fragrances. Pink Sugar absolutely has a caramelized sweetness, like a burnt caramel sweetness that I do not get in my Aqua Eucaro. And this one has a little bit more citruses where I get more fruity sweetness in the Parfumum Roma equivalent. This one surprisingly lasts very, very long. It's not super heavy wearing, but this one literally is a 12-hour fragrance, at least for me. Pink Sugar does not last that long, but there's a huge difference in price. There's over a 10-fold difference in price. And so I think it's $20 versus $275. So for that, you're gonna lose a little bit of longevity in Pink Sugar, but remarkably similar fragrances. And I think that Pink Sugar, if you are on a budget, is a very good substitution. Will get you close to this beautiful sweet gem that I picked up over the summer. If you really love your super sweet fragrances, one of these should be a staple in your collection. I think I'm gonna call it quits after this next one so that I have enough for part 3 that I will do sometime in the spring, early summer. So when the Billie Eilish fragrance came out last year, I zipped on over to my local Ulta and I sampled it thinking there was no way I would enjoy it. And I know it gets a lot of negative reviews. I actually thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a nice celebrity fragrance. I would have purchased it had I not had so many perfumes, and I already have loads of celebrity fragrances. I did an entire video on that maybe a couple months ago. So I didn't think I needed it at the time. And then a friend of mine who used to be a creator, she doesn't do it anymore, she recommended this perfume to me about 4 months ago. I've had it for a while and I've seen it pop up on other videos, and I picked it up, and it is called Nebris by Lattafa. Now, the only thing that really bothers me is the cap was literally broken when I got the fragrance. So the bottle itself, so the body of the bottle is fine, but the cap is kind of a mess. But when I sprayed this, I thought, oh my gosh, I have smelled this before. And it took me maybe a day or so for the light bulb to come on and realize that if this isn't a dupe, it's awfully similar to the release from Billie Eilish last year. And that was her first release, not the newest one that I think just came out in December of last year. But this is a guilty pleasure for me. I think this smells really good. This is vanilla and berries and cacao and a little bit of amber in the dry down. I think this might even have a note of sugar cube. It is sweet, but the sweetness comes off more fruity to me. And that cacao kind of gives it a little bit of dustiness and brings it out of, or maybe just smooths out that really sweetness that you get in the beginning, and then it becomes more ambery in the dry down. So it goes more of a vanillic fragrance, a fruity vanilla fragrance with a little bit of cacao, and then it sweetens into more of an ambery, fruity type of sweetness in the base. Most of these Middle Eastern fragrances have a prominent musk or a prominent woody note. I don't really get either in here, but it's a very fun, sweet, enjoyable fragrance that I think I picked up for around maybe 45, 50 bucks back in, I want to say September, October, sometime back then. Now it's not, I don't think it's an exact dupe of the Billie Eilish fragrance. It's definitely an impression in my mind, and I would say they are 85 to 90% similar. So the Billie Eilish one may be going for around 100 bucks, 90 to 100 bucks, whereas this one, like I said, was about half that, and this one lasts for a long time. The performance on this one is great. So that's it, part 2 of my affordable alternatives for more expensive fragrances. I still have one more video to go. I have more material, but a lot of these fragrances are fragrances that I like to wear right now during this weather and even transitioning into the spring. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of the video. If you have a nice affordable alternative for an expensive fragrance, let me know in the comments below, and I will definitely look into it. Thanks to everybody who clicked on the thumbnail, watched my video, and support me. And I will see you on the next one.